Hey guys, how's it going? We're back. It's been a while since I last posted a video to Lehigh Tutoring. So what I find as a tutor is that a lot of students have issues with word problems. Word problems are, it's easier in some sense to solve a mathematical problem if you're literally presented with an equation. But it gets tougher when you have to actually produce the equation or equations yourself. And that's where I find students get most confused. It's when they have to construct the equation and then they have to solve the equations. It's too much of a process where they get confused. And so I figured if I tackle more word problems, that actually might help students with their homework and stuff like that. And there's all these number word problems, money word problems that I see often. Sometimes it has to do with physics. In this case, I found this website, everythingmaths.co.za. It's online. It's everything math and science. And I found a set of word problems. You can have a look yourself. And if you can support us in that process, we'd obviously greatly appreciate it by subscribing, commenting, liking, and sharing. So, I figured I'd start. I think I just lost internet connection. I figured I'd just start right now. And we can look at the word problems together, and then I'll jump into Zernal, and I'll start solving. So we have a shop selling bicycles and tricycles. Now, whenever you have a word problem, you're going to need variables, right, which are letters in this case. I like to make letters that have to directly do with the problem, So you have a shop selling bicycles and tricycles. In total, there are 7 cycles, where cycles are both bicycles and tricycles. Okay. And there are 19 wheels. 19 wheels. Determine how many of each there are, meaning how many bicycles and how many tricycles there are individually. If a bicycle has 2 wheels and a tricycle has 3 wheels. We already knew that part, right? We already knew that a bicycle had 2 wheels and a tricycle had 3. So what letters are easy to choose in this case? Well, it's obviously going to be B and T, right? So if I have little b being the number of bicycles and little t being the number of tricycles, tricycles, okay, I know that in total, right, there are 7 cycles. That means that B plus T, right, has to be 7. Okay, and I'm going to name that equation 1. Next, they tell you the number of wheels. Okay, so they tell you that the total number of wheels is 19, and we know that each bicycle, right, has 2 wheels. Okay, so let's say we had 4 bicycles. Okay, we had 4 bicycles. Then the total number of wheels due to the bicycles alone is 8, right? 2 times 4. Since I don't know how many bicycles there are, I'm going to put my letter B instead of just a number 4. I'm going to put B because we don't know what B is. And in the same way, 3 tires or wheels per tricycle, right? And so now if we add them, we get the total number of wheels. And they tell us how many there are. It tells us there are 19. Now there are several ways to solve this, or a few ways actually. There's substitution method, and there is elimination method. What I will do is I'll just do substitution, because for some reason students find that to be more straightforward from what I find from my experience. So let's take equation 1 and isolate for one of the letters. I don't care which one, right? So I'm going to isolate for B, the number of bicycles. And what I'm going to find is that b is going to be 7 minus t, because all I do is subtract t from both sides. Okay, so I'm going to call this equation 3 then. Now, what equation 2 is saying is that if you double the number of bicycles and add that to 3 times the number of tricycles, you get 19. But now I've put b in terms of t, right? So 7 minus t has to replace b in this case, because you want to solve for one of the letters, right? You want to find out how many tricycles there were, so that if you can find out how many tricycles there were, you can find out how many bicycles there were. So what you do is always, as good practice, put brackets, okay? And you're going to put 7 minus t. So this is still 2b, and then what equation 2 says is you putting equation 2, what equation 2 says is you put 3t, and then it equates to 19, right? So now I've got to expand the 2 inside, and you get 14 minus 2t plus 3t equals 19. Negative 2t plus 3t is positive 1t, right? And now whenever you have like 1t, you could literally just put t, right? So I get 14 plus t equals 19. Now I want to isolate for t. This 14 is bothering me. It's getting in the way. And this is a positive 14. So to undo that, I got to take away 14 from both sides. Oh. So if I take away 14 from the left, right, those guys cancel, and I'm just left with t. So I've isolated for t. And I get 19 minus 14, and I get 5. So there are 5 tricycles. Now, how do I know how many bicycles there are? Well, you can use equation 1 for logic, right? If the total is 7 and I've got 5, right, what adds to 5 to make 7? Well, that's 2. Or you can use equation 3, right, which says that the number of bicycles is basically the number of tricycles taken away from 7, right? So it's going to be 7 minus 5 then, and you get 2. So there are 2 bicycles, 5 tricycles, and we're done. We're done the problem. Now, I don't know how to say this name. Maybe you guys can help me pronounce it, but it's Bongani and Jane are friends. Bongani takes Jane's physics test paper and will not tell her what her mark is. Well, that's okay. I guess that's understandable. He knows that Jane hates math, so he decides to tease her. Bongani says, I have 2 more marks than you do, and the sum of our marks is equal to 14. So if we call, Bongani, the mark, if B is Bongani's mark, right? Right, and J is Jane's mark, or grade, right, whatever you'd like to call it. Bongani says, I have 2 more marks than you do, and the sum of both of our marks is equal to 14. Well, that must mean that Bongani's mark, right, is equal to Jane's mark plus 2, right? And that the sum of both their marks is equal to 14. So Bongani's mark plus, sum means plus, Jane's mark equals 14. But we have an expression for B now in terms of J. So that means that Bongani's mark, which is just 2 more than Jane's, added to Jane's mark is equal to 14. So 2 is so now I have to take away the brackets, right, and collect like terms. There are 2 J's here, right? J plus J, that makes 2J. So 2J plus 2 equals 14. So that must mean that 2 times J, right, equals 14 minus 2, because I moved 2 to the other side, or in other words, I just subtract 2 from both sides, and I get 2J equals to 12, right, because 14 minus 2 is 12, so J will equal to 6. Okay, Now, Bongani's mark, right, is 2 more than Jane's, so Bongani's mark must be 8. Okay, so we just found both grades. I think they're probably both out of 10. I think that's safe to say. Okay, I don't know what kind of currency this is. It says R2, 00, so I'm just going to skip that. So the product of two consecutive negative integers is 1122. Find the two integers. Okay, now there's a generic way to do this question. Basically what you do is if you have two consecutive integers, right, you can name one of them x, the other one will be x plus 1. Now this is their product, and it tells me, right, that their product is equal to 1122. Okay, so now what I have to do is I have to do expansion, and then I'm going to get a quadratic, and then I have to solve that quadratic. Very simple. So I get x squared, okay, plus x, because I'm expanding in, all right, equals to 1122. And that means that x squared plus x minus 1122 equals 0. So now I've got a quadratic, and I need two numbers, right, that will multiply to 1122 and have a difference of positive 1. Now, what I like to do is just do trial and error. Another way to do it is to do quadratic formula if you want, because it's really hard to guess like right off the bat. But I know that it's going to be a positive 34 and minus 33. Okay, check that yourself. All right. So what you're going to get is you're going to get x equal to negative 34 or x equal to 33. Now, it says that the integers are negative, right? So will this count? Absolutely not. So we have to cancel that. So our first integer is equal to negative 34. Notice, though, we picked two numbers that multiply to 1122 actually embedded in the problem. One of them is 34, right? So we need a consecutive integer with negative 34 that will multiply to 1122. We know what that number is. That number is a negative 33, right? So our answer is actually negative 34 and negative 33. Now, are we worried because we have two negatives? Not really. Two negatives multiply to a positive. So if you work this out, if you multiply them both into your calculator, you will get 1122. So that's that problem. Okay, those were actually example problems. So now let's do legit exercises, right? So exercise 1. Two jets are flying towards each other from airports that are 1,200 kilometers apart. One jet is flying at 250 kilometers an hour, and the other jet is flying at 350 kilometers an hour. If they took off at exactly the same time, how long will it take for the jets to pass each other? Meaning, how long will it take for the jets to reach each other, essentially? Right. So let's say this is airport 1, okay, and this is airport 2, all right? And the distance that separates them is 1,200 kilometers, I believe. Let me double check that. Correct. And one jet, right, is flying at this rate of 350 kilometers an hour. Okay. The other jet is flying at 250 kilometers an hour. Now, let's call this guy the origin, right? This is where we've got a reference point, right? Then what happens is this airplane that's moving at 350 is moving away from the origin at 350 kilometers every hour. If we let time be the number of hours, then the position, right, for airplane that's leaving from 1, right, or we'll call it plane 1, the position of plane 1 is equal to 350 t. right? So let's test that out. In 2 hours, the airplane will be 700 kilometers away from the origin, from airport 1. Now let's find out what the position is of airplane 2, because this is a little trickier. Now remember, it's relative to the origin, right? So right now the airplane, right, if it didn't move at all, the airplane is at a position of 1,200 kilometers away from the origin, right? Keep that in mind. That's extremely important. So right now, right, if the airplane did not move at all, if t equals 0, the airplane is at 1,200 kilometers away from the origin. Now, what happens with over time? Does that distance increase or decrease? Meaning, does the airplane go closer to the origin or further away? Well, it goes closer, right? It keeps going in this direction. So what you have to do is you have to decrease that relative position. By how much? Well, it's going to be by 250t. Now, when they pass each other, okay, when they pass each other, their positions are equal. So that means that that 350t has to be equal to 1,200 minus 250t. If I add 250t to both sides, I will get 600 over here equal to 1,200 over here, because these guys cancel. And so it will take 2 hours. 2 hours for them to finally pass each other. So that's that question. I hope that's okay. We have another question with this weird currency I've never seen before, R50. I think that's, no, I don't even think that's revenue. I think that's something else. We're going to move on to problem 3. If I understand what that actually is saying, I'll come back to it. The diagonal of a rectangle is 25 centimeters more than its width. The length of the rectangle is 17 centimeters more than its width. What are the dimensions of the rectangle? Okay. I'm going to create a new page. We've got a rectangle. Oops, that is a nasty looking rectangle. We've got a width and we've got a length. And we've got a diagonal, kind of. Okay. Now, it says that the diagonal is 25 centimeters more than its width. So if we call the diagonal D, then 25 centimeters more than its width, this is the width. 25 centimeters more means this much, right? So if like the width is 10 centimeters, the diagonal is 35 centimeters, right? You just add 25. So I'm going to put it right there, 25 plus W. The length itself is 17 centimeters more than its width, right? So in similar fashion, the length would be 17 plus W. Okay, and we've got a right angle triangle. Now what theorem combines these three quantities together into an equation? It's Pythagorean theorem, right? So the hypotenuse squared, right, equals to the sum of each of these legs squared. Okay, this is c squared equals a squared plus b squared. That's it. Okay, so all I have to do is expand now and solve my equation. That's it. So we get the square of 25. I believe that's, what is that, 625, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe not. This is why it's always handy to have a calculator, even as a tutor. 25 squared, 625. I'm actually correct. Okay, so whenever you expand a binomial, a perfect square binomial, into a trinomial, you have to make it, you have to square the first guy, square the second guy, add them together, right? And then it's plus 2 times each of them, right? So plus 2 times this times this. that's how the expansion will look. So if 25 is x, x squared is 625. Okay? W squared is w squared. And then plus, I need 2 times 25 times w. That's 50w. Okay? And I do the same thing. I need 17 squared. So 17 squared is 289. So 289 plus w squared, okay, plus 34w plus w squared. Okay, this is the expansion of the perfect square, and this is the plus w squared that's left over. Okay. Now all I have to do is take away w squared from both sides to make things easier. So I'm going to kill that with that. Okay, and I can simplify, right? So I'm going to keep w. I'm going to move everything over to this side because it has a positive w squared. I'm going to have to solve quadratic. So w squared is still there. Then it is going to be plus 34w, minus 50w, plus 289, minus 625. That's what I get. Okay. 34 minus 50 is negative 16w. And 289 minus 625 equals negative 336. So we need two numbers that have a difference of 16 and multiply to negative 336. One of them is positive, one of them is negative. What I like to do here is I like to guess, okay? So let's try some decently sized numbers. 46 times 30, what do I get? 1380, no good, right? Let's go lower. Let's go difference of 16, so 30 by 14. That is a difference of 16, right? So 420, too big. So it's even smaller than that. So let's see, 26 by 10 is 260, so that's no good. 27 by 11, how much do I get? 297. So 28 by 12, 336, that's it. So it's 28 and 12. So I'm going to have to do, if I have negative 16, I go negative 28, right? The bigger number gets the minus, and then the other one gets a plus. So now, if I solve, my width is going to be 28 or negative 12. Now, the width can't be negative, right? It just can't. So the width has to be 28. Now, it wants the dimension, so it also wants the length. If the length is 17 added on to w, then the length will be 28 plus 17. And so it's going to be 45 centimeters. I believe it was centimeters. So the width is 28 centimeters and the length is 45 centimeters. And so that's what I get for my answer. Okay. Now, the sum of 27 and 12 is equal to 73 more than an unknown number. Okay. So let's talk here. What's going on? So the sum of 27 and 12. So the sum of 27 and 12 is equal to, let's see, 39, right? That is equal to how many more? 73 more, right? More means plus, than some unknown number x. Find the unknown number. So all I have to do is solve for x. So isolate for x. So subtract 73 from both sides. So 39 minus 73 should be equal to x. So it's going to be a negative number, right? 39 minus 73. and I get negative 34. So x is negative 34. That wasn't too bad. Next. The two smaller angles in a right angle triangle are in the ratio of 1 to 2. That means that one of them is double the other one. What are the sizes of the two angles? Okay, now, what do all angles in a triangle add up to? They add up to 180. What does a right triangle have? One of the angles is 90, right? So if I call this angle x, the other one's going to be 2x, right? Because they're a ratio of 1 to 2. And then the other one's 90. So 2x plus x plus 90 has to be equal to 180. Okay? Then I have to subtract 90 from both sides. And so 2x plus x equals 90. What's 2x plus x? 3x. So 3x equals 90. That means that x equals 30. So what's the other angle? Well, the other angle is twice as big. So 2x equals 60. So my two angles are 30 and 60. And that's it. It's a 30, 60, 90 triangle. And just as a side note, the side lengths for 30, 60, 90, it's a special triangle. So when you have 30 degrees, opposite the 30 degrees is a 1 for the lowest. And then the hypotenuse is double that. And then the other side will be root 3 based on Pythagorean theorem. So that's the special triangle, just as a side note. Okay, the length of a rectangle is twice the breadth. If the area is 128, determine the length and the breadth. Now I'm just checking, what does breadth mean? Does that just mean the length? Breadth. Come on, internet, don't fail me now. The width, yeah, okay, yeah. So, so it's just a length, I think, from side to side of something. Yeah, so it's probably just the length. Why wouldn't they just say length? I don't. Oh, the width. Okay, why wouldn't they just say width? Anyways, so let's set this up. So the length is twice the width or the breadth, right? And it's saying that the area is equal to 128. So the area of a rectangle is length times width. But if length is 2 dubs, then you go 2 dubs times w, that's the length and the width multiplied together, that should be equal to 128, right? So 2w squared equals 128. Divide both sides by 2, and I get 128 over 2. What is that, 64? The square root of 64 is 8, so the width is 8. Right? I got to take the square root of both sides, remember that. Okay, so the width is 8, so the length, right, should be twice that, which is 16. That's it. Okay, and I believe it was in units of centimeters. Yeah, because the area is centimeters squared. Okay. All right. So next, if 4 times a number is increased by 6, the result is 15 less than the square of the number. Okay, so that's a mouthful. If 4 times some number, I'm just going to call it n because n, of course, is the first letter of number, is increased by 6, that result, it should be the same as 15 less than the square of it. Find the number. Okay, well, this is a quadratic, so I'm going to move everything over to this side because that has a positive n squared. So n squared minus 15 minus 4n minus 6. N squared, 0 is left on the other side, right? We're solving a quadratic equation. So n squared minus 4n minus 21. That's what I'm solving. Two numbers that multiply to 21 have a difference of negative 4, or 4. It's going to be 7 and 3. to work it right, you're going to go -7 and +4 because we have a -4 in the middle, right? That means the first number is 7. Another option is -4, but you can't have, does it say, it doesn't say if the number is positive or negative. I doubt it. I doubt it's negative. I'm going to go with the positive result, right? And so the number would probably be 7. I'm assuming that it's a non-negative integer, right? The length of a rectangle is 2 centimeters more than the width. The perimeter is 20 centimeters. Find the length and the width of the rectangle. Okay. So, next problem, okay? The length of a rectangle is 2 centimeters more than the width. So L equals dubs plus 2, okay? The perimeter is 20 centimeters. Well, the perimeter, right, is basically 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, right? When you draw a rectangle, you got a length and a width, right? You also have a width here and a length here, so the perimeter is the sum of everything, right? So it's going to be 2L, 2 dubs. What we can do is we can divide both sides of this equation by 2, right? We can do that. So then this would cancel with this and that. And so what you would get is you get 10 equals length plus width. But the length is width plus 2, right? So I can replace L by width plus 2. So that means that 2 width plus 2 equals 10. That means that 2 width, 2 times the width, equals 8. Or that the width is 4. Which must mean that the length is 2 more than that, which means that the length is 6. Okay? And so that is the solution to that problem. So this is in centimeters, and this is in centimeters. Sounds good? So Stephen has 1 liter of a mixture containing 69% salt. How much water must Stephen add to the mixture to make the mixture 50% salt? Write your answer as a fraction of a liter. Okay, let's see if we can figure this out. So you have this amount of salt, S, divided by the total volume of water. Okay, this is of water. And or maybe I should call it volume salt. Volume salt. And this is volume water plus volume salt, right? So this is a fraction, right? So the total mixture is V water plus V salt. And V salt is just the salt on its own. And that just happens to be 69%, which is 0.69 originally, right? And the initial liter, the initial volume of water, the initial total volume is 1 liter. Yes. So initially, right, V water plus V salt is equal to 1, right? Liters is a measure of volume. How much more water do you have to put, right, in order to make this fraction 0.5? That's what they're looking for, right? So how are we going to do this? You need to add more volume of water, right? So basically what you need to do is you need to add some amount of volume to both sides of water, right? Such that this fraction is now 0.5. So if we call the new volume of water, right, the new volume of water, the original volume of water plus some value, okay, we need to figure out what this new V is, okay? So if we put everything in terms of V, then we're pretty much good. We can pretty much solve our problem. So V salt doesn't change, right? V salt does not change at all. So let's see. V salt does not change at all. So V salt equals is going to be 1 minus V of water, right? And there must be an easy way to do this. I feel like I'm just making it complicated. What we'll do is we'll come back to this problem and we'll see if we can finish it off. The sum of two consecutive odd integers is 20 and their difference is 2. Find the two numbers. The sum of two consecutive odd integers. So here's 1, right? And the next odd one is going to be 2 more than that, right? And the sum is 20. And their difference is 2, right? Find the two numbers. So let me see if this even works. 2x plus 2 equals to 20. So so 2x plus 2, this is obviously not going to help much because x's cancel and you get 2 equals 2, which is left side equals right side. It's an identity, really. But that will give you 2x plus 2 equals 20. And so 2x will equal to 18. And so x will equal to 9, right? So that's one integer. And so the next one would be x plus 2, right? And so it would be 2 plus 9, which is 11, right? So 11 and 9 are the two numbers in the question, in the answer. The denominator of a fraction is 1 more than the numerator. The sum of the fraction and its reciprocal is 5 over 2. Find the fraction. Okay. So reciprocal means 1 over just the flip, right? And it says that the denominator of a fraction is 1 more than the numerator. So if we call the numerator x, the denominator is x plus 1. Now what's the reciprocal? The reciprocal is the flipped. And it says that the sum of these two, right, the sum of the fraction and its reciprocal is equal to 5 over 2, right? So find the original fraction. So you got to find x over x plus 1. To do that, we got to find x, though, first, right? Multiply both sides by the lowest common multiple, which is x times x plus 1. Okay, what that'll do is the x plus 1 will cancel the x plus 1 here, and you'll get x squared in the first term. The x and the x on the bottom will cancel. These two will cancel each other. And what you'll end up getting is x plus 1 squared. Okay, do the actual FOIL and you'll see what I mean. And then 5 over 2, x plus 1 will appear on that side. When you do the expansion, you get x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 5 over 2 x squared plus x. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 to make the math easier on myself. Okay, so everything will get doubled. 2x squared plus 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 will equal 2, and then I'm going to expand the 5 in there, right? So I get 5x squared plus 5x. Now notice this looks really straightforward because 2 plus 2 is 4. That will cancel with 4 of the 5x squared over here. So what you're going to end up getting is x squared over here, right, on that side. Likewise, you have 4x here, you got 5x here. If you take away 4x from both sides, you get just 1x. And then you're just left with minus 2 on this side because that 2 will move over, right? And then you get 0. So you need two numbers that multiply to negative 2 but add to 1. Very simple, right? It's going to be plus 2 but x minus 1. And the reason why I chose plus over here is that you get a plus 1 in the middle, right? The bigger number has to take the plus. And so you get that, so you get x equals negative 2 or x equals 1. What were the conditions for the problem? The denominator of a fraction is 1 more than the numerator. I'm assuming that the number has to be positive, right? And so if we assume that the number has to be positive, then it's going to be 1 over 1 plus, what is it, 1 plus 1? Yeah, x plus 1. So 1 over 1 plus 1, the fraction is a half. Okay. Now, Masindi is 21 years older than her daughter. The sum of their ages is 37. How old is Mulivu, who's the daughter? Okay. So because they both have the same first letter, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the second letter as a variable. So Masindi will take an A, and then Mulivu will take a U, and Masindi is 21 years older. So Masindi's age is Mulivu's age plus 21. And it says that the sum of their two ages is equal to 37. How old is Mulivu? What's U, right? Well, I got to isolate for A, right? And A is already isolated for it. It's U plus 21. So I got to plug that back into here. So it's going to be U plus 21, right, plus U equals 37. So this is Masindi's age plus Mulivu's age equals 37, right? Nothing changed here. So 2U plus 21 equals 37. So that means that 2U equals 37 minus 21, which is 16. So U must be 8. That's it. So Mulivu is 8 years old. Okay. Okay, I remember reading this and I was like, oh my gosh. Okay. So Shamano is now 5 times as old as his son Murunwa. 7 years from now, Shamano will be 3 times as old as his son. Find their ages now. So let's say Shamano is T, and then the other guy is M. Okay, Murunwa. Right now, Shamano is 5 times as old as Murunwa. So he is Murunwa's age times 5. But 7 years from now, right, this guy's age will be 3 times as big as this guy's age. But notice it says 7 years from now. So 7 years from now, Shamano will have that age, and Murunwa will have that age. But now this age is 3 times as big as that age. So now we just got to solve these, use these two equations to solve for both of their ages. So if T is 5m, I can plug that into there, right? And I get 5m plus 7 equals 3m plus 21, right? I just expanded. So 3m goes over here, 7 goes over there, and I get, let's see, 5m minus 3m, that's 2m, equals to 14. So Murunwa's age will be 7, and right now, what was it? Man, Shamano's age is 5 times as big as that. So T will be 5 times 7, which is 35. So their current ages are 7 and 35. And that's it. So thank you so much for watching, and hope you have a good one. And thanks for supporting us and for watching this video. Have a good one. Bye.